Welcome to Generation Inspired, exploring the people and ideas shaping tomorrow.
And you stop questioning or, thinking about, well, is that right? What is there a better way? And he'd come home and his vibrancy wasn't the same. And so I'm like, well, we need to look at a different option. And at that stage, I was going through a divorce. There was a lot of change in my life as well. And so I'm like, well, if everything's going to change, let's change, So
Change it all.
Just change it all. And so I went deep into the homeschooling sort of research mode, spoke to a lot of people. I'm still a member of the homeschooling education network here in Victoria. I think it's an amazing thing for kids, but I would say what it is that stopped me from doing it. I didn't end up doing the homeschooling. I loved how you could tailor it to kids' interests, that it didn't have to be like a school from home, or it could if that's what worked for your child. It could be, subject-based, or it could be interest-based. And the fact that there was actually probably more flexibility in Victoria than a lot of other states, which I found really interesting. And that may have changed. I'm looking at it again now, but that was a while ago. But the reason I didn't do it is I had to earn money. I had to work, and I wanted to work, if I'm completely honest. I love what I do. I'm in the finance space. I'm in the coaching space. I love seeing other women empowered and making money and changing the world. I didn't want to stop that. And homeschooling didn't allow for that. There wasn't a place I could take them that wasn't school, but was kind of schooling, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I wanted to have them, shape what they wanted to learn, but they were also young, and I didn't know if it was just that I was upset with it or whether they were having a problem with it. It's such a confusing time. And it's still something that I'm part of the groups. It's still something I listen to podcast-wise. It's still something that I think is super important because there are alternative schools. There are other options, but they're not really catering to humans, if you know what I mean. It's still a very structured, and from a legislative and curriculum perspective, if you take away homeschooling, you look at other schools, will it change? If you just go, well, let's try an alternative school, there has to be another way. And so I think that's where our conversation sort of started, when it's like, what else could there be? So I'll throw that to you.
Well, you'll have to watch this space. I think after our conversations, and something that feels like it's from the absolute core of me is being able to design a new way of education, this new way of learning, that from all of the research that I've done in the past and all of the experience working with kids is based on skills that kids actually need for the future.
Absolutely.
Which are those that are soft skills, actually. It's entrepreneurial mindset, it's creativity, confidence, the ability to adapt, problem solve, all of the stuff actually that as business owners that we do really naturally. We know that these are the skills that are needed.
Yes.
I think that we know now that as kids finish school, even now, they will have 17 different jobs in 5 different careers.
I think that's exciting.
To me too.
That's so
some
exciting.
People would be like, oh, geez. It is exciting. So that the fact that kids need this toolbox of skills, more so of that adaptability, to me is really important. And I think if we can design something that allows kids to get real world experience where they're learning soft skills and life skills.
The life skills is really missing.
Absolutely. I think then we're setting up kids for the future in the correct way. And you'll hear us talk so much about this moving forward because we do have an idea, and the idea is to drop it in there right now. It's called Tomorrow. And we are going to be working to look into what tomorrow's learning could potentially look like, which is really exciting.
And feel free to get in contact with us if you have any thoughts. We did put out a survey, so we will drop them in the notes because we'd love to hear from you. And it was really interesting, the feedback we got there around the skills and what you would like to see. Entrepreneurial skills came up, financial skills, which that's close to my heart. And I'm like, yeah, everyone needs that.
We've got to teach kids money skills though.
Yeah.
I mean, I find that in this day and age that we are not teaching money
No.
is crazy.
But how the world, the economy, everything that we do has money involved. Decisions that we make, how we increase wealth, how we get more freedom and a better lifestyle, whatever that may look like. You have to understand money for that.
Absolutely. And I know that there's been so many parents sat at home and this is the type of conversation they've had over the kitchen table, right? These are the skills that everyone needs. And it's a shame really that no one's doing it, but that's obviously where we come in for the future.
Absolutely.
Let's discuss actually a little bit of the feedback that we saw in that
Yes.
survey, because I found that some of it was surprising and some of it wasn't, to be honest.
Agree.
What, after reading those responses with the questions and the answers that gobsmacked you?
The biggest thing that I wasn't surprised at, but actually made me a little sad, was anxiety came up in a lot of the responses, that the anxiety of their kids or the issues that their kid was facing. More often than not, there was something. And anxiety was such a prevalent theme.
And I feel like it was over 80%.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Which 80% of the kids' the parents filled in that their kids had anxiety from that. That is mind-blowing. How is it that we have this anxious generation? Is it because they're squeezed into that mold?
I believe so. I also think they feel like they don't have the skills. There's school and then there's life. Where does that?
And this is where mainstream education misses it for me. Because we have these incredibly amazing kids in school. I'm a big believer that all kids have genius.
Without a doubt.
Our job as mentors or guides or parents is to put them in situations and give them experiences where they can realize that potential themselves. And I think that when you're sat in a classroom behind a desk, filling out worksheets or doing academic only based things, then God knows what percentage of that classroom is feeling less than, losing confidence, creating an environment of self-doubt that leave school then feeling like they're not as smart or as good as anyone else.
For sure. And there is a stereotype within school too, because if I even think about my own experience with my kids, it's not even about the academics for one of them. It's about the fact that sport's harder, or he doesn't look a certain way, or he is a bit strange and weird in the things that he expresses or shows interest in, and the whole human's not accepted.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking. It's funny, I've had both of my children say, Mum, am I weird?
What's with that?
Oh my God. And I'm like, where does that come from?
My response to that, if anyone wants to know, is weird is amazing. I'd rather be weird than boring. And if don't follow the crowd, be yourself. And I know as kids, it's hard to do that. But as an adult, makes you an entrepreneur.
I think as well, as adults, we do it naturally as parents because we always want to see our kids succeed. And we will do whatever we can to go, wow, good job, or spot the little things to build their confidence. But unfortunately, in a school environment or any environment that's set in stone, unfortunately, the small things get missed. So everyone just kind of rolls into one. But then also, I have witnessed, unfortunately, adults automatically assume that kids can't do things.
That is really interesting. Why do you think that happens?
I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but I'd love to share a story. And I know that I have shared it with you before, but I went out to the middle of nowhere to a school environment where I ran one of my entrepreneurial workshops. And the whole idea was we wanted to generate an environment, get the kids really creative. So they came up with a business idea.
Nice.
And we took them through this really fun, hands-on experience where they each had a role in a company and etc. It's really practical and it doesn't involve any sitting down behind a desk. But I turned up there and I had a learning assistant come up to me and point out a child sat on the front row and said, look, I'll just use a name. This is Damon. Look, he has some behavioural issues. You'll probably find he doesn't focus or concentrate. Look, if he does get naughty, I'll just pull him out, but don't stress, he probably won't take part today.
Interesting.
Now, maybe me, instantly raging. Raging inside, because actually some of those things I've heard say about my son before. So that made me personally want to help this kid even more. But what was interesting was I didn't need to go above and beyond. The minute we set off in the workshop, it's fun, it's loud, we play the music, it's not a very school environment anyway. So already he was curious, you could see him like going, oh,
it's different.
This is a little different. What's this? And, we're interacting and we sat there. We took the first break and I went over to him and sat with him literally a few minutes. And I just started to ask him questions. I was like, so Damon, what do you do on a weekend? And at first, I couldn't get very much out of him. I think it's year 8, potentially. One of that awkward stages where they don't really want to talk to an adult.
Yes.
I persevered. I was like, tell me what you do. Okay, what do you love to do? And he was like, oh, I love going to see my granddad because he's a beekeeper. And I could see just a slight shift in his face, his tone of voice. I was like, oh my goodness, tell me about that. And then he opened up with this story. Every day after school, he runs to his granddad's and his granddad is taught him everything about these bees. And actually, he's really interested in starting his own honey business. So
nice.
Like, wow. So I was like, well, why don't you use this to actually design your own business? And he was like, really? Oh, great. And for the rest of the day, he kind of took it upon himself. He designed his logo.
That's awesome.
Sketched out his jars of honey and what everything would look like and even a plan. And I saw his teachers sit in disbelief. And to me, I was like, why are you shocked here? It doesn't take a lot to get underneath the surface and ask a few questions to figure out that a child can be passionate and is passionate about something, and then using something like that to tailor it. And to cut a long story short, 3 months after we left that school, we got an update and he'd actually started that little honey business, and we got a picture of him and he was earning his own money. And the school were great. They'd actually allowed that to come into his curriculum when he was allowed.
That's fantastic.
So good on the school for that. But that's one of so many stories that I got running these workshops in schools. And from that day on, I always looked for the odd one out in the class. And I would always go out of my way. And you'd find that suddenly you give that type of child the opportunity to step out of their comfort zone. And you support them to do that. And
in a safe way.
In a safe way, then they will thrive. And I've had the shyest girls in the class put themselves forward in the pitch-off to pitch off the idea in front of judges. And the teachers are mind blown.
Until next time, keep thinking bigger about what's possible. I'm Liz Volpe. See you on the next episode of Generation Inspired. Follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next.